So we are talking about the movie A Room to Die For, a 2017 British low-budget horror film about killer geriatric landlords. That's right. Now the story basically focuses on a young couple who are having financial issues, so they decide to rent a room to try and sort of cut costs basically. And they find a beautiful old house which is owned by this seemingly lovely old couple, and they obviously rent the room, but then things take a bit of a darker turn. This older couple seems to be inserting themselves into their lives somewhat more than they probably would normally do. They can also hear a baby upstairs, but they never actually see the baby, so there's something amiss there, and then obviously things go from bad to worse for our couple. So what do I think of A Room to Die For? Gotta say, overall, I wasn't overly impressed with this film, mainly because of the way the story is told. It has a kind of a main timeline, so to speak, but this movie seems to obsess over jumping around and kind of having flashbacks, but doesn't do a good enough job of letting you kind of know that you're in a flashback sometimes, and thus becomes quite irritating and quite confusing about what you're actually watching, who certain people are, having dream sequences where you don't realise you're watching a dream sequence and think, I don't really understand what the hell's going on in this film. Plus there's a couple of quite ridiculous plot elements here, particularly involving the police. Anytime the police are actually in this film, which isn't a lot to be fair, but the way the story portrays them is quite unrealistic, and also there's a massive plot hole in it which doesn't make sense. So that was disappointing. On the plus side, I actually kind of quite like some of the cast on this, in particular the two main male characters. The younger guy who is the tenant, he's basically in the film a stand-up comedian, and although he's not particularly funny on stage, he does have some quite amusing lines of dialogue with his girlfriend, and also with the male, the older guy, the landlord, basically, and he as well is also played in a kind of quite a fun way, but also a very sinister way. As the movie progresses, it does turn a little more violent. I think the third act is a lot better than the first two acts, because it doesn't do this annoying sort of time jump thing, so that it flows a little bit better because of that. However, I will say, the violent climax of this is very poorly staged, and unfortunately doesn't come across all that well, if you see what I mean. I can't really go into it, obviously, that's spoiling anything, but the culmination of what happens, the way it is filmed, doesn't look very good. Doesn't look authentic to what's actually meant to be happening, shall we say. So other than a few kind of good character moments, there's a couple of nice little gore shots here and there. And it does have somewhat of a creepy vibe to it, especially when we're actually given some of the exposition about what these kind of old couple actually do. But there's too many plot holes in this. I don't like the kind of the story framing with the kind of the time jumps and the dream sequences and all that. I thought that was very poorly executed. So overall, I got to say, the flow of the story was really disrupted because of that. Thus, I'm going to give this movie a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me comments, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.